From the top rope, this is the Squared Circus.
Square! Ah! That's the occult phenomenon. You know what I think?
Recording in progress.
I realize I like paint.
That was a botch. Hold on.
So, anyway, that's how it's gonna go.
Oh, fucking
Recording
in progress.
So we'll try not to rant too much tangents on this topic, just because we always go on tangents with everything that we do here.
Well, I'm tired, so maybe I won't have the energy for.
Yeah, you were a little heated the last one, but one of the topics that you said that you wanted to do was the whole does wins and loses matter.
Yeah,
and I know we wanted to touch up on that because it seemed like in AEW when they first started, they made it like such a huge thing, and now it doesn't really, to me, means like shit.
I mean, the first part of this is when AEW started, it was like, this is going to be an alternative to WWE. And this is one of the ways that they were going to distinguish themselves from WWE. The idea that in WWE, wins and losses didn't seem to matter. So here they will. But what did that really mean? And for me, I don't think it means what the words mean. I think to them, it means something different. So to me, wins and losses matter means that like the win means something in itself, not just a number on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I think what they meant to say was not wins and losses matter, but like the number of wins and losses matter. Win-loss statistics matter. They're talking about statistics. They're not talking about the actual win, right? Mm-hmm. The only difference between them and WWE in this respect was that they put a little fucking number on the screen above the wrestler's name when they enter. That's the only difference. Those wins and losses didn't mean a damn thing, because even in the beginning, there was tons of low blow finishes. They didn't do the DQs, and that was one of the things I think that they meant when they were trying to distinguish themselves from WWE with this idea. We're going to actually have people win and lose, but mainly what they meant was like, wins and losses will matter in as much as there will be rankings and we'll have numbers and we'll talk about the number of wins and losses like a sports statistic. Mm-hmm. But to me, the wins and losses don't mean anything if they're afraid to have people lose all the time, which is what it seems. Every time Pac hits somebody with a fucking ring bell, a bell hammer, that's a win that didn't matter. It was meaningless, because nobody got over from that win.
Yeah.
And they did it from the beginning. And one of the first things I remember too is that I think it was a Pac match, and he low blowed somebody. I'm like, why already? We just started. But 3 years ago, there was so much else to enjoy. You didn't care, and it was still new. And you felt like, okay, they're new. They're finding their way. They're going to figure this all out. But 3 years later, now it's like, okay, it's time to say something, because you've had 3 fucking years now and the product isn't as great. There isn't as many things to like enjoy that you can ignore the flaws anymore.
One of the things I think is always funny to me is when I'm a little tipsy. Sorry.
I'm working on it.
One of the funniest things though, is that because I don't watch Dark and Evolution, and hardly anyone does, they count those. So when you look at someone and they come out of the ring and you're like, wow, I haven't seen them in months. And they're like, oh, he has like 38 wins and 10 losses. I'm like, really? I saw him like twice this whole entire month. Like, where is these wins and losses coming from? So I find it funny how, what's it called? I just find it funny that they count those, and so they make it such like a big deal, but it really doesn't,
And then beyond that, I mean, what most people are complaining about when they say, the wins and losses don't matter is that, they'll have like, who was it? Was it Nick Gage, who was just like, oh, hey, we're just going to throw this guy in a championship match, as opposed to the people who like racked up all these wins? Might not have been Gage. It was some indie guy who just like came in out of nowhere. It wasn't Gage. Who was it? Some other fucking like similar indie wrestler guy who was fucking terrible, I thought. But he just came in, got a match with Moxley, and people are like, what about wins and losses matter? What about all these statistics we're building up? And the whole point is to say you're the number one contender because you have X number of wins. So that's another way in which they don't matter. But it's like, to me, the important thing is like, yes, you should be distinguishing yourself from WWE, but do it in a meaningful way. They took this one little thing that really didn't mean anything. I mean, the idea of the statistics, like it would have meant something if they actually treated it the way that I felt it should be treated, that there are actual wins and losses and not constant cheap wins that don't get anybody over. In that way, it would have distinguished itself from WWE, especially at that time. I don't know what WWE is doing now with Triple H, but at the time, it was just like constant DQs, run-ins, cheap wins. Everything was just like to avoid having to have anybody lose all the time. And I thought, great, wins and losses are going to matter, but then they didn't. So if you're going to distinguish yourself from WWE, do it in a meaningful way. I don't think this was a meaningful way. Sticking a number on a screen wasn't a fucking meaningful way of doing it.
I was going to make a joke because, okay, so Deeb is someone I always joke about how she's always on Dark, Evolution, whatever the fuck it's called, and then Dynamite, and like she's just all over the place. So when she comes out and she only shows like 24 to 10, I'm like, how does this woman, then how are they counting? Because how does this woman not have about 450 to something because she's on every fucking match? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, if you're that, like, are they counting? Another thing too is I want to know is, are they counting when they're 3-on-3? Does that count for each one of them, or do they not count those?
I don't know.
But yeah, I just feel like in the beginning it really did feel like it meant something, and they're like, oh, it's gonna mean something. They had the stat. You even go on their website and they'll show like little freaking like cards, and they're like 27-2, like almost like freaking boxers and shit. And you're like, that means dick, because every time you do like a fucking champion match and this and that, we already know who's gonna win. I don't know. It just seems kind of like, get over it. I don't think it really needs to. I also hate, I'm sorry to cut you off. I also hate though when they have statistic stuff like, oh, this person won 452 days, or this one, because all you're going to do is that just makes it where no one's going to be happy, whoever took it away. You know what I'm saying? Like when the Undertaker had the 30-1 streak, or when this person like Oscar, when they Oscar in WWE, I know this is like a tangent on a different company, but when Oscar's like won, like, oh, she won 327 days, no matter who is going to beat her is going to piss off a lot of people, because you just made it go that long, and now it has to be someone special, and now half the people are going to be pissed. Yeah,
you have to do it right. You're setting yourself up to be under a lot of pressure, because if you don't do it right, like they're doing right now with Jade, like if
28-0 or something like that, or I don't know what it is.
38, I think.
38, 38-0.
And I'll say this: I appreciate the record better than the number of days, because number of days can mean anything. You could not wrestle for 2 months and still have.
That's true.
That's 60 days.
Roman Reigns does that.
WWE does it all the time. I mean, it's part of wrestling to like hype shit up. You inflate the numbers, you inflate people's weight and height and the crowd numbers and all that shit. But I don't know. To me, the other thing is, you talked about Dark. I feel like because they kind of backed themselves into a corner with the whole like standing so firmly behind this idea, that they kind of, I feel like, are forcing it now, where they're just we got to do some matches that don't mean anything just so we can have some numbers. Just so Serena Deeb can have those 20 wins when she shows up. And so it can look like if we want Serena Deeb to be in a contendership, we got to put her on Dark a bunch of times in matches that don't matter. So it's like you're trying to fit the programming to this idea that really isn't working, and it makes you do things maybe you wouldn't normally do.
I actually want to look up what is Deeb's fucking record, because that girl definitely wrestles like every single fucking show. So I'm really curious. So I'm gonna actually fact check while we're live, because we're idiots. And then
I know we don't have these ideas.
We don't plan for this shit.
No.
So you take another statement going on while I look this up.
let's take some fan mail here. Let's see.
Who is this today? Of course,
Roddy Piper 420 from says, "You guys suck.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about WWE more?
Yeah,
I love Roman Reigns. AEW's for pussies."
I'm sure that I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah,
because it seems like it's more. You know what? We're not going to fact check it.
facts are for losers. This is 2022. We're in a post-fact world.
but yeah. So I do think that they should just get rid of it and just stop it right now.
Yeah. Because you're just, it's just another thing that for the fans to point out that you're not doing anymore. That this promise you didn't live up to,
Yeah.
It's enough of that. And also, how much of it was a Cody thing? Because I feel like Cody was hyping up.
That could be true.
So let it go away with Cody. Cody's gone. You don't need reminders of the guy who left the company.
Well, this is
for greener pastures.
Real quick, this is what I read somewhere. Someone got mad that they said, "Well, WWE doesn't know how to use their people too because they got Cody, and now all of a sudden he's not wrestling." I'm like,
he's hurt.
I know he's doing an injury. So it's kind of hard. Like, I know we sound like bitter people, but man, it's kind of hard when some people talk and you're like, you know what, this is just not the way it is. At least we're more reasonable.
Yeah.
Because Cody actually had a very good run when he first went to WWE, and then he had probably the best match of his life when he was hurt. So I'm like, I don't know how you could sit there and say, oh, by the way.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so I got it.
So all right, we're not talking about Cody. That's another episode, though. I would love to talk about Cody. Did you find your fact?
Yes, I finally took it after about 15 minutes. 34 and 8, which I find it to be a lie because I've seen her at least 4 times a week. So I don't know what.
30 of those are on Dark.
They said 22 and 3 just in 2022.
And I used to watch every Dark. Also, I don't anymore because I don't have that time to dedicate. I mean, I probably do, but I'd rather spend my time doing other things. And just how disappointing AEW has been the past few weeks, past few months. I'm like, why am I going to bother with Dark now? And I'll skim and skip through it, but I don't know. I mean, the point here is they did this thing. They didn't live up to it. Ultimately, if they want to distinguish themselves from WWE, which they start to need to do a lot more, especially right now, right? Mm-hmm. If they want to hang their hat on wins and losses matter, distinguishes us from WWE, they need to find something better because too many other things they're doing are real WWE. And it's starting to feel like Impact or TNA, where it's just budget WWE. And that's, you're gonna, I mean, and I think Tony thinks that's what's gonna bring success. I think he's leaning more and more into a WWE style of show because he's so desperate to get the ratings up, and they're not going up. In effect, I don't know if the ratings are going down. Attendance is going down a fucking lot.
Yeah, that's a
I don't care if they had a $1 million gate at Arthur Ashe. They sold something like 7,000 fewer tickets than last year. So they doubled the ticket price they got to get a $1 million gate, but thousands of people didn't show that showed from the year before. Because, I mean, it's the same thing. I wasn't watching TNA back in the day, but if you look at those old videos, they're fucking filling places. I mean, you see this packed crowd. And then when you watch Impact now, it's 500 people in a gymnasium that they try to make look fancy, I mean, it really feels like it's starting to go that direction. And Impact to me was a company that always was trying to be bigger than it was, or TNA trying to be bigger than it was. And then if AEW is going to be that, and it's the low budget show trying to look big budget instead of just being what you are, embracing the indie style that made you guys the alternative in the first place, that made all these fans abandon WWE to go over to your show, you need to embrace it because now you're losing those fans. You're not getting any new fans and you're losing the old ones.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's all I got too.
It's a short one.
It is definitely a short one. Just we kind of wanted to make it short, but there's really not much to say left with the wins and loses because they just don't matter. that's the end. Wins and loses don't matter, folks. Unless you're in real life, we all lose.
We all lose. Everybody loses.
Everyone
The
loses.
moral of the story is everybody loses.
I'm not a loser. That's right. I'm not a loser.